Hey guys, so I think I owe it to you to totally get you up to date on what has gripped Korea right now as an unsolved mystery. It's sort of like the Elisa Lam case at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Well, this is a case of a 21-year-old medical student who went missing and then was found in the Han River dead. And they're trying to figure out how he died. And then there's a critical piece of video footage, just like that Elisa Lam case, but a missing time period that may or may not explain what happened. And so there are investigations continuing, but it is kind of taking the attention of everybody right now. So this is what we do know. The guy's name is Jung Min. So I'm just going to call him SJM. So he was at the Banpo River Park. And he went there on April 24th, which was a Saturday. So it was a Saturday night with one of his friends. And it looks like now it wasn't like a totally close friend. And he went there around 11 p.m. There are receipts and CCTV of him and his friend going into a convenience store. They bought some snacks. They brought a mat. Then they went out to the Riverside Park. In Korea here, you can drink in a park publicly. It's no problem. So the CCTV cameras showed that they went into the store, they bought their snacks and alcohol, and then they went to the park. The CCTV showed the little tunnel where they were both walking together. They looked both happy in the convenience store, and they looked happy like walking towards the park. And so they just spent the time there. And then we get a timestamp of 1:30 a.m. when SJM, the guy who died, sent his mom a KakaoTalk message. It's basically a text message. And Instagram showed that he posted a video of them dancing around at 1:50 a.m. So that essentially is where the for sure timeline ends of SJM being alive. Now, the time period that's coming up next is based on the testimony of his friend. And from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., his friend, and the Korean media is calling him Mr. A. Mr. A says that after sleeping a little bit, SJM woke up and started running around. And now there's CCTV footage that we've seen, like they're kind of like running around. And he says that SJM fell over himself, started rolling around in the grass on a hill, and made growling noises. And then Mr. A, the friend, had to drag him out of the hill. And this is when Mr. A says he got dirty and his shoes got dirty. Now, the shoes are important a little bit later. So at around 3:30 a.m., Mr. A, the friend, calls his own mother, talks to his own dad, and he tells his dad, SJM is drunk, he's asleep, can't wake him up. But Mr. A's father says, hey, just wake him up and come on home. But according to Mr. A, he just didn't go home, he just fell asleep there. Now, according to Mr. A, around 4:30 he wakes up and his friend is gone. So he just assumes, oh, maybe my friend woke up and then he just went home. So I'm going to go home too. Based on CCTV footage, we see at 4:30 a.m., Mr. A walked through the tunnel alone. So we know that he left the park at 4:30 a.m. So what we don't really know for sure exactly is, to be really precise, the 1:50 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. If we completely trust Mr. A's account, then we really don't know what happened between 3:30 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. So now there's the theory. Did Mr. A essentially have something to do with the death of SJM or not? So then at 5:20 a.m., Mr. A and his parents go back to the park to search for SJM. So at 4:30, SJM leaves, he goes home. Then he and his parents go back to the park at 5:20 a.m. to search for SJM. 5:30 a.m., there's contact with SJM's parents. At 5:40 a.m., the father gets to the park, starts looking for his son. What happened to the body? The body went missing. It was the night of April 24th when they went to the park. This all happened in the wee hours of April 25th. And then April 30th, somebody found the body in the river. And so it's assumed that the currents carried the body out and then brought the body back, because the body was found very close to where they were hanging out by the river. The initial autopsy showed that he had some lacerations behind his head. Police said that those weren't, injuries that would cause death. And also there were some abrasions on his cheeks. And police said that, those injuries probably could have come from being dragged in the water and hitting objects or rocks. And so the official autopsy, the complete autopsy, is probably going to come out in about a week. So right now what they're trying to focus on, and why I think a lot of Korea was, really trying to do their own forensic sleuthing, because something just didn't fit right about this whole situation. It seemed a little suspicious, because right away, the friend has not been accused of being a suspect. But, when you have to sort of try to dance around and see maybe if he's a suspect, and so there's a lot of innuendo. For some reason, the father, I guess, wanted to see the shoes of his friend, because he's like, well, maybe if we see the shoes, we can kind of see where you went. If there's mud, or if it's wet, or if there's grass, we could kind of track, your movement, maybe based on the condition of your shoes. But they said that the parents first said that, the shoes were so dirty that they threw it away. So people were just like, that's really weird if somebody just throws away shoes. Most of the time people wash them or have them cleaned. It's really odd that they would throw away the shoes. And then later on, it turns out that they changed their story, saying that, no, the mother didn't throw away the shoes, but a different family member threw away the shoes. And so the father is saying that that's a little bit suspicious, because they're lying. It looks like they're lying about something that they don't have to lie about. Up until this point, this father is just talking. There's no camera or microphone that he does not like. He is out there talking. Mr. A and his family are just radio silent when it comes to the media. So we have not heard their side publicly yet. Mr. A. What else was weird? When he went home, he says that when he saw his parents and then, he emptied out his pockets, he's like, oh my gosh, I have my friend's cell phone and I don't have my phone. His friend's cell phone was a Samsung Galaxy and his own phone was an iPhone. And he was like, oh no, I don't have my phone. Now that's the weird. Now people are saying that this phone situation is a little bit suspicious. The first part is that having the phone switched was a little bit weird, and then carrying the phone back to the park. There was some video footage that looked like he was checking the phone in response to somebody calling or messaging, and that he was just ignoring it. At that time, around 5:30, the father was calling his son's phone, and he said he called about 3 times, and there was no answer. And then finally on the third time, they answered. But during this time as well, they're saying Mr. A's mom called the house of the SJM and said that, I think your son is missing. We're gonna go look for him in the park. You should come join us. So that's when the father came to join them around 5:40 in that morning, and then got the phone back. So then the phone, where is Mr. A's phone? So that's the mystery. It's like, so then where did your phone go? So they're thinking like, oh, well, if you don't have your phone, then maybe the missing son has the phone. And if the missing son has the phone, maybe if we call it, he'll pick up and say like, oh, this is where I am. So they keep calling it, and then around 7 a.m., I think the battery dies or something, it just goes straight to voicemail. So that lead dies. And then they know it's somewhere around that area still, because the last ping was around 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m. around the water taxi station, which is right around where they were at. So there was this intensive search from volunteers. Now, this is how Korea got involved. People who had nothing to do with this. They came out with metal detectors. They're going in the water. They're just like digging up stuff. And so one man found an iPhone, a red iPhone 8 that was smashed up. That looks like it wasn't smashed on accident. It looks like it was smashed on purpose, and there was no SIM card. So it's a red iPhone. So the police take this and they say it's not Mr. A's phone. It's not Mr. A's iPhone because Mr. A had an iPhone, yes, but he had a space gray colored iPhone. So therefore this red one cannot be his phone. But the netizens are going through these security camera footage tapes of the convenience store. And they're claiming that you can see glimpses of red. Something red that looks like a phone or maybe a wallet in the hand of Mr. A and peeking out of his pocket at different points of when they were in the store. So they're actually saying that perhaps he did have a red iPhone. Next thing that's mysterious was like the last video. So they were just like horsing around, that age, right? Like 20, 21, just drinking and doing, fun stuff. Unfortunately, it ended crazy, but they filmed, and now this is the bad thing, kids, you 21-year-old and under, they make up their own language, if you didn't know this already, guys. They make up their own language, so even Korean people don't understand what they're saying. So, the mystery that's been going around on the last video that nobody can understand or solve is the friend, Mr. A, is bowing to his friend, and his friend says, "골든 거는 네가 잘못했어, 솔직히." So basically he's saying, golden is your fault, honestly, right? So people don't understand what the hell is golden, like golden. And so netizens came up with 3 possible scenarios. Golden. So the first one is that it could be referring to the singer Seoul, who used to go by Golden at some point. And they're saying that that's the most likely scenario because they were sort of talking about singers and hip-hop or something, but it still doesn't make sense. The second scenario that they're saying is that it could refer to medical school speak, where if you bomb a test, that's what it's referring to. Yeah, that's your fault that you bombed a test. I don't know. And then the third one is saying like, oh, that's like your level on League of Legends, like the golden level. You have bronze, silver, golden, platinum or something. So those are the 3 options, but they still don't know. The father still doesn't know. And then the father now is saying like, it probably doesn't matter too much what it is. Now, something new that came in this morning before I was like about to film is that the father said now he has time to look through the rest of his son's phone, and he was looking at the messages of the other friends that he was talking to. And before he went to the park, while he was making his plans to meet this friend at the park to go drinking, he was talking to another friend saying, hey, you want to come along? And then it'll just be 3 of us. His other friend was saying like, no, I have class. I have a lot of classes piled up. That sounded like he was probably doing online classes and he had a lot of classes, to get through. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? Like he has a lot of classes piled up on a Saturday night. He was probably online classes. So he's like, no, I can't go. And then SJM says like, again, like in somewhat of this like younger cryptic language, because even like the father was trying to figure out like what the heck he was saying. And he's saying like, it sounds like that that this friend is not that close of a friend, and that this is sort of kind of like a new situation. So there was kind of like a phrase where they were saying like, oh, this is going to be like a new experience, or this is kind of like a new thing, and we don't know what thing is or experience is in this situation. So that's a little bit weird. So he ends up going anyway, and that's what we know now in terms of that kind of timeline. Now, like I said, the father of SJM has definitely been active in the media, getting his point across, been very clear that he does not think that this was a normal death, and he's very suspicious, and he thinks that it was caused by another person, not from his son just wandering into the river and, drowning. He believes that and he's really pointing the finger, of course, at Mr. A and his family's actions, especially during those critical hours between like 2 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Now, he's going and making assumptions about what normal behavior should be in a situation like this. I have problems with people making assumptions about how some people should behave in response to trauma or, death. But I also make an assumption about this father's behavior because I don't think this father is also behaving, quote, normally. So if he's willing to judge Mr. A and his family about their abnormal behavior, then let's listen to that, and then I'll tell you why I think the father's behavior is a little bit abnormal. So Mr. A and his family are acting suspiciously, according to the father of SJM, who died, saying that, like, why didn't they call the police or him, like, immediately when they thought SJM was missing? Why did they throw away his shoes? If they bought a mat, where did the mat go? Why didn't Mr. A answer the phone when he called? Like 5:30, like kept calling the phone. Why did they take a lawyer when Mr. A was questioned by authorities? If he had done nothing wrong. Why didn't Mr. A or his family come to the funeral? And why did Mr. A get a new phone with a new number just hours after searching for his friend? Now, okay, these are all good questions, definitely good questions, but some of them do take a leap of faith. I'll just go over some of them. You don't immediately call the police if you think that, your friend is drunk and he went home and it's only been an hour. You're not going to call the police. You're going to think like, oh, maybe, he went home. But it is a little bit weird that if you do think that, then why are you going back to the river to search for him? So that does not, I agree with that. That doesn't add up. And the whole thing about the shoes, this shoe thing is going to be like the red herring. Like, it's either going to be very significant or it's going to be such like the distraction of this whole thing that's going to keep us away from the real truth. I have a feeling about that. And then taking a lawyer to when you're being questioned by the authorities, that I don't think is a problem, because you have to know, like, if you've ever been involved in any kind of legal situation, the truth or what's logical in these kind of cases is not what matters in terms of like whether you win or if you get punished. It's like what the reality is on paper within the confines of the law. And if the law does not stipulate this, or if you don't fit into this law, or if you do something that violates a law, like, you need to have a lawyer that knows like what the situation is. So, because you don't want to be wrongfully accused. And so I don't give that much credence to that. I just think that, that's a little that. Now, this is why I think that Mr. A, the father of SJM, also is exhibiting abnormal behavior. If you look at some of the interviews, I hate to say this, but it makes me feel uncomfortable watching because I think he looks too happy. I do not like to say like you should, if you're going through grief or loss, that you should be looking like, like you're so sad. But I don't think you should look this happy though. I have to admit that just bothers me, and I am assuming that that does not look normal to me. And it could be that he is, swallowing his sorrow and putting it away so that he can mourn later, and he knows that right now is the time when he has the attention of the public to try to solve his son's case, and that's what he's doing. Maybe. It could also be that I'm pretty sure that he's just a classic narcissist. He likes the attention. He loves the attention. And so it might not be nefarious, but there's something a little bit odd about his behavior where he looks like he's so gleeful, and there's no emotion to the death, and it's so fast. And I am assuming that if your son just died a horrific, tragic death like this, that you would sort of be like kind of in the house, not being able to do anything, not like just going out like interview, radio station, TV station, just like going out there. Like even on the Riverside Memorial to his son, I mean, while he was like trying to like look like he was sad, like it looked like he was looking to pretend like he was sad, and then there was this point where like the cameras were trying to get him, and then he was like, oh okay, like he'll angle himself to the right position of I was like, oh my god. I mean, he's better than an actor, like trying to get it so that the director doesn't even have to tell him what to do to hit his mark. And so there's also like a verbal slip, I think, in the video that I also included as a link on the Seoulite.com if you want to read the article, where around the 3-minute mark, he's kind of responding to a question like, what kind of response do you, what kind of result do you want? What do you want? How do you want this? What are you looking for? And he's like, well, I just want it to be all, wrapped up if the result, whether it's a good, and then he stops himself. He's like, oh, well, every result is bad for me. But, whatever the result is, just that it's all done. And so I was just like, he almost said good result, whether it's a good result, like whatever the findings were about his son's death, like there could be a good result. Like his mind went to good. I don't know, something about it just does not also make sense here. What we have learned this morning is that there were some of the messages that the father read, and he's making that public, sharing, a little bit of more of like the situation that that the son went into. There were about 8 witnesses that they found, just people who were just hanging around the park within a 10-meter area that did see these two guys. Oh, and then also Mr. A finally went in for questioning for about 10 hours. And then his mom gave her phone to authorities for investigation because they wanted to check whether he really did call his mom at 3:30 a.m. So they're trying to, really piece together the timeline where there's kind of like that missing piece. What really happened? What happened? You guys want to know what I think happened, huh? Well, at this point, I think that it was an accident. But I do think that it was an accident caused by something that the two shouldn't have been doing, and that it ended tragically, and that Mr. A was trying to cover it up. So I don't think Mr. A completely caused the death, but I do think he panicked or something where he wanted to make it look like a complete accident that he had nothing to do with. I don't know why the dad is so happy. That can be a totally other, like, really warped conspiracy theory that, is more of like fictional. But it is weird how he smiles too much. So I think that the son might have done something foolish. and he fell into the water, and then Mr. A tried to save him. Or maybe they were fighting and then he slipped and it looked like maybe he had pushed him. It's probably a messy situation, and then Mr. A probably wanted to get out of a messy situation that probably wasn't so nefarious, but he wanted to make it look clean so that he didn't have to deal with any kind of stuff, but now he's really dealing with a lot of stuff. I think that's probably where it would be pointing towards. Unless Mr. A is really a psychopath. It looked like the two guys were just just having fun, like just two friends, like if you look at them like walking into the convenience store, Mr. A looks like an 8-year-old boy. Like, I mean, he looks like a 21-year-old dude, but he's walking around like an 8-year-old boy, like, you know, about to get like an ice cream cone. On the other hand, he could be a psychopath. I don't know. That's why people are so, intrigued. Check out thesoulite.com. Remember to subscribe and like, share. We'll see you later. Bye-bye, guys.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.